All right, it's Stephen Downs here for part 3 of learning Next.js. And as you can see, I've already got the stream up and running. And now I just need to find where the stream is up and running so I can pass along the link. This is always an issue. Okay, that's task mag. Keep that. I'll be watching that over lunch. So let's go to my channel. See if I can't find it. There it is. Find where the stream is up and running so I can pass along the link. This is all. All right. So let me just post that on Twitter. There has to be an easier way to do that, right? Okay, so it's 11:20 here in Castleman, Ontario. So just before lunch. So maybe some people might want to jump onto the stream before lunch. I have one viewer, although that one viewer might have been me. Who knows? Right. Okay, so what are we up to today? I need to find the page. Here we go. So this is Next.js. I've been working on it for a little while. Well, 2 previous episodes, totaling almost 4 hours of video. I'm really sorry about that. So in the previous sessions, I created the Next.js app, made some pages, metadata, CSS, and did some pre-rendering and data fetching. And that's about it. I got down to fetching data, etc. I'm not sure exactly where I stopped. This is one of the problems with picking up a project like this. It's been like only 1 week since the previous video, but you know, coding requires a lot of focus and mindset. And so, you know, you sort of wonder, where was I? What was I doing? Anyhow, okay. So I know I was working in Visual Studio Code. So this is the current project I'm on, which is Grasshopper. But we'll come back to that in some other video at a future date. So I'm going to open a folder, and it'll be in Code Projects, which is where I keep all of my project folders. Next.js. What else? And I was making that Next.js blog. So we'll select that folder. My changes will be lost if I don't save them. Don't save, I don't need them. Famous last words. Okay, so here we are. So this is looks like I have a bunch of stuff to upload to GitHub from last time, but you know, I mean, it's not really a live project, so I'm not going to worry about that so much. But here's the directories that I was working on. Here are the pages I created, the posts. There's some pre-rendering, right? This is one of the posts that I actually created, describing pre-rendering, describing static generation. So these are posts, not actual things I've done. Some images. Here's the library. We created a file called posts.js, which is our main thing that runs our blog, along with the very simple app. Index.js is our start page. And we built a component, a layout component, and gave it some CSS. And that's what styled our blog in Next. So Next is a back-end framework, and it uses React on the front end. So what that means is Next sits on the web server, not in the browser. So I'm running this from a web server, and then I'll access it via a browser. All right, so I also had a terminal, so I'll just open up that terminal. No, it's just from the other. I was hoping that maybe some of the Next commands were still there that could, just boost my memory. But so we're gonna have to deal with that, right? We have to deal with stuff I've forgotten since last week. If I had been smart, which I wasn't, I would have watched that video from last week. But that's an hour and 15 minutes or whatever commitment that I wasn't about to make. So I'll muddle through. All right, so let's go to Next and try to figure out where exactly I stopped. So blog data. Well, I know, these are the 2 pages that we created. Implement get static props. Yes, we installed gray matter. I can verify that. Should be in somewhere in here. Maybe I can't verify that. Yeah, can't verify that. Can I? Oh, node modules. And then gray matter should be down here somewhere. Probably under G, right? Oops, too far. No. Maybe I didn't install it. Pretty sure I did. Well, let's. Nothing will break if I install it again. Oh, well, I can check, right? See if I've put it in posts.js. So let's go back up. So we'll close this. Post.js. Yes, I did. I don't know why I don't see it there. It's a node module. It really should show up. Maybe it's under some other name that I just don't remember off the top of my head. No, this is from Gray, G-R-A-Y matter. Huh. That's a puzzle. Not much of a puzzle, but it's a puzzle. Is there a way to refresh? Not that I should need to. Oh well, I won't worry about it. I know it's there somewhere. Yeah. Okay, so we did that. So what was next? Get static prop details. So, right. So, so fetch external API or query database. But of course, we didn't do that. We fetched it from the file system. Right. So, and this was just a bit of discussion about what you could do. But here we go. So, server-side rendering with data. So, here we go. Get server-side props. And we didn't implement it. SWR. And that's it. Okay. So, we should be at dynamic roots. And so might have done this too, but I see here we got this far in. The little blue dots help us. Right, so we set it up, the dynamic roots. So okay, so that was just some setup, some explanation of what's happening, get static paths. So that was to get the directory structure from the file system, implement get static props. So see file system, read file sync full path. I'll bet you that's in there in posts.js. But let's just verify that to be sure. Posts.js. Okay, let's close this off because we don't need it anymore. And it's really big. Okay, posts.js. Right, so here we go. What was the name of that function? Get post data. So, get post data. Get sorted post data. Get all post IDs. Get post data. Right. So basically, we're reading stuff from the file system. These are markdown pages, which, as I mentioned last time, these are pages written in a really simple kind of syntax. Here's one, right? So, you know, the title, the date, which is metadata for the page, and then using these asterisks to indicate page formatting, or just the space to indicate, you know, a new paragraph or whatever. Here, using the dashes for an unordered list of links, or an unordered list. Pretty simple stuff. Markdown, you can look that up if you want, but basically our pages are in Markdown. They need to be converted into HTML with styling to be displayed. So that's what this function does. Renders the Markdown, so we get the post data, and export the function, the post, and we use the template that we created earlier. And now try visiting these pages. Now I don't think we're running at the moment, right? No. So let's get our thing up and running. I don't think they even mentioned that. So, you know, why would they, right? I mean, who's going to start right in the middle of a section? But let's go, and we need the terminal here. We're in the right directory, and I need to remember. So I think, is it node run dev? Something run dev. Next.js. I put that in quotation marks because the search will otherwise try to search for the website Next.js. Run dev. This should give me the exact command. Getting started. Run npm. I don't know. Oh, that was create app. Yarn. Export. No. Come on. npm run dev. Alright, that must be it. I think that's right. See what happens when you forget? You have to use search. So that was a right click, which just pastes that right into the terminal. And let's see. npm run dev. Okay, should be started the server on localhost 3000. So now we'll go to localhost 3000. Whoops, too many. And here we go. And this is the this is where we were. This is our sample website. This is our blog with a couple of links that aren't working yet. All right, so we're picking up from there. So let's go back into the instructions. I'll just make these a bit bigger so they're easier to read on the screen. Yeah, that's much better. Okay, so render markdown. The following code. Right, so let's look at the blog post that we created. There's one, back to home, and the other one. Here's the other one. Back to home. So pretty good. Pretty happy with that. And great, we've generated dynamic routes. I had a little bit of error checking to do at the end. I had to compare my code with their code to make it work, but I did make it work. Alright, we still haven't displayed the blog markdown content. Let's do this next. Okay, so now the quick review. I got it wrong. And moving on to the next, dynamic routes. And it looks like here, oh yeah, I got in this far. Moving on, let's polish each page next. Polishing the post page. Okay, so let's look at that post page. Okay, well, here's a post page. 2 forms of pre-rendering. Right. So yeah, the title doesn't look good. The content is non-content. Alright, so let's get this going then. Adding a title to the post page. So, in pages, posts, ID, whatever the name of the post is, let's add a title tag using the post data. You'll need to add an import for next head at the top of the file and add the title tag by updating the post component. So, where am I going then? Okay, so, gee, we have to do this for every page. How annoying, but oh well. Okay. Oh, let's just post. Oh no, let's, okay. Oh no, that's right. This is the actual name of the page that we're editing. We only have to do this once. Alright. So, post ID, right? So, this will be used by any of our posts. So, first of all, we have to import head from next head. Next head is the script that we're importing this from. And now also we need to add the title tag by updating the post component. So the post component, in other words, the post function. So we'll add this. Alright, so let's go back to our thingy. So basically, where is our posts component? This is it. Return layout, post data title. Right, so where are we putting it exactly? In between the layout tags. And then the other stuff stays there. Okay, so in between the layout tags, here are the layout tags. So there. So this is the head. An HTML page typically has a head and then a body, although notice the capital H, which tells me that this is being used specifically by the layout function in order to create an ordinary head element in the page. Alright, that's good. Control S to save because it's a habit. We'll also format the date. Oh, okay, so we have to use the date FNS library. First install it. Doesn't tell us where to install it, but I know where to install it. You go to the terminal, and so the terminal is down below. Oh, wait, the terminal is still running the server that we've been messing around with, so we need to create a second terminal. So plus, and I'll just use a PowerShell terminal. And so now I have two terminals running. There's the first one. Now here's the second one. And I'll use the second one to enter my command. And so npm install date fns. So date fns is a node library. It'll do date handling and date management functions, I'm assuming. I could learn about it if I wanted to learn about it by searching for it. And I'll just take so date fns. Yeah, it has 100. It's like Lodash for dates. That tells us a lot. Like whatever Lodash is. More important, it has 180 functions for all occasions. Dates are so annoying. So annoying. So it's really nice to have a library that handles that for us. Okay. And then we'll create a file called components.date.js. Told you they're annoying. And so we'll add the date component. Okay, so let's go into components. Here we go. So we have one component already, which is the layout. And now we'll create the new component, which is date singular, date.js. So I'm in components. I'll make a new file, date.js. And then I'll put this content into it. So it's going to import these functions from the library that I just installed, and it's going to export a function called date, which takes date string as an input and returns time date string nicely formatted for us. Okay. So Control S to save, and we'll go back here. You can view the different format string options here, and yeah, all the different ways you can format dates. And I can tell you from experience, you'll need all of them over time. Alright, so now we'll go back into that id.js and add an import for date, because we need to import it first. It's kind of neat the way all of this import-export stuff works, and it's a bit new to me because it's not really a thing in Perl. I mean, it's sort of a thing in Perl, but it's not really remotely the same. But when you have a large project made up of a whole bunch of different files, keeping track of the functions that you're importing and exporting is probably a pretty good idea. Especially, you might have functions that are named the same in different projects and things like that. So we're being very precise in importing date from a specific component. So we don't need to worry about overlap and stuff like that, but you can only be sure if you're actually doing the imports and the exports. If you just assume that somewhere in your library there's a function called date, well, that way lies madness. Alright, back to id.js. So we need to import. Let's import date from components.date. And then what? And now we put the date string somewhere in between the layout tags. Doesn't tell us where. but there's stuff above it and stuff below it. It doesn't tell us what stuff's above it and what stuff's below it, but let's put it below the head and above the rest of it, and that's probably a good spot for it. So let's come down here. There's the head that we just created. Now I'll put replace post data date with this. Okay, helps if you read the instructions. Post data date, so we're going to replace post data date, Control X to delete and copy, and then I'll paste it here, Control V, and this is just a comment now, so I don't need it anymore. Right, I think that's what they asked us for. Shorten up the lines there and keep things neat. Keeping things neat helps. Okay, Control S to save. Alright. And so now we should see the date. Now, it won't be January 1, 2020. It'll be January 1, 2020. So we don't have a real date. We have this silly fake date. That's probably because that's what was in the page definition file, right? It's got to be. So let's go to the posts. Yeah, there we go. Date January 1, 2020. Written either American style or I'm assuming that's international, so 2020 is the year, 01 is the month, and then 01 is the day. It's a pretty smartly chosen example because it won't confuse between the international and the American way of rendering dates, and it just sort of puts that whole issue to us the side. But if you're American, coding really requires the international year, month, day, or if you're doing it the other way around, day, month, year, and not month, day, year. And the reason for that is sorting. You want to be able to sort your dates, but if it's month, day, year, your sorting's going to be all wrong. Just so you know. All right. And now let's add some CSS using the file styles, utils, module CSS that we added before. Okay, we'll add an import even for the CSS styles, yes, because it has to come from this module. So we'll add that to the top of the file. So let's go in here, add it to the top. There it is. This is pretty clever, right? I mean, we have a whole bunch of posts, but all of the posts are going to use these instructions, this layout, these utilities. So we don't have to load them on each individual page. We just we just define where they're coming from once. If we were doing it in HTML, on each one of these pages, we'd have to import CSS from someplace, import JavaScript from someplace. And again, if you make a change in your CSS, like the location of the file, you're in a situation where now you need to change every single post file that you've ever written, and that's not a fun thing to do. But this way, it's just in one file, so I could change it to a completely different CSS module located in a different place, and it would impact all of the files, all of the posts, all at once. I don't even have to do any reloading because I'm dynamically loading this. Don't have to do any writing. It's just change this one line, it's done. That's why this is for large site production development. That's how this becomes really useful. It's a lot of work if you only have 5 posts. But if you have 50,000 posts, it makes a lot more sense to do this than that. All right, moving on. I should be about to look at it, right? I think I'm about to look at. Oh, I have to finish including the. Add this import at the top of the file. And replace the post component with the following code. All right, yeah, okay, so here's the head that we had, and now we're actually going to put in some HTML tags, including for our date that we just added, and we're going to put the tag for the content. Right, I don't think we had that content thing before. So okay, let's. And I think it's the same otherwise. Replace the post component with the following. Okay, so let's replace the post component with the following. So let's make sure we understand what's happening here. So the posts component. So there's the layout, there's the post data, and now we're going to replace all of that with this, Control V to paste. So, oh, okay, Control Z to undo. I have this twice. I know I don't need this twice. So let's copy all of that. Is that right? Oh yeah, there we go. Okay, so only one export line. I don't need two. Duh. Return, and then this text, which is the layout. There's the head. Now we have a section called article, and I'll bet you if we look back into our CSS, we'd find that components layout. See, here's what the head should look like. The link should look like. No, I don't see that. Well, it's maybe in here. Container. No. So it's just structural markup. So we're not actually using these article tags yet, but they're really useful to have in case we do want to use them later. H1, div, etc. And there's the content. So I'll save this, Control S. Now do I get to look at it? Yes. So let's have a look at it. Yeah, so I've got my title, my date. I don't seem to have content. Should I? No, not yet. Okay. We'll polish the index page next and we'll be done. Alright, so let's polish the index page. Updating it. So, pages index. We'll add links to each post page using the link component. Very handy. So, we need to import these at the top for link and date. I think I might have already imported link, just anticipating. So that's index.js. Yeah, I did. So, and now date. So importing link, importing date. All right. Oops. Then near the bottom, replace the li tag with the following. So the list item styles, the key is the ID of the post, the link to the ID of the post, and then the title of the post, and then the date. So we'll copy this. So See, they're skipping over some stuff here, like util styles dot list item. If we go in here, layout module, do we have list item? No, right. But somewhere in there, we're going to be defining that and using that. We could probably put list item in here in this file, maybe, and define it. But we haven't done that yet, and we're just sort of, without comment, just tossing it into our file. All right, but let's do that. So we're in index.js, replacing the links. Okay, so the li component of our links, which was all pretty basic. And I hate when it doesn't indent properly, but I select it all and just hit tab over and over again, and I can get some proper indenting going, because I like it to look neat. Neat is good, and that way you keep all your lines lined up. So here, this is right to the beginning, and here's your close bracket. That's what you want. And again, same line, open bracket, close bracket, same line, open, well, that's there. So I don't know where this is from. It's from, same line, it's right at the beginning, right? So that's why you handle your indents to make it nice. You keep your bracket. So if I do have a bug in there later on, it's going to be a lot easier to find. Control S. Okay, I wonder if anyone's watching. Hi, people who might be watching. Let's see if you're watching. And we have one person watching. Hi, one person who's watching. Nice to see you're hanging in there. All right. Coming back. So now if we go to localhost 3000, the page now has links to each article. And it does. And back to home. Has the articles with the titles. And you notice we never typed out the title on the index page. I'm just going to delete these empty or these unused tabs. All right. Good. Very good. Happy now. Could it be that we're going to go through this without incident? Okay, and that's it. Talk about some tips for dynamic routes on the next page. So, we can fetch data from any data source. For example, an external API endpoint. That's important because in a lot of the work that I do, I want to get data from an external API endpoint, not just a file system. The API endpoint might be my own system, or it might be connecting to an online service like, I don't know, Google Drive or Dropbox, or something like that. Maybe Twitter, maybe the weather station. So, and we would use fetch in order to gather the data. Now, there's all kinds of things that can happen with fetch. We'll probably hit some of those, either if not now, in the future, but it's there. Development versus production. Right, so in development, getting the paths runs on every request because I'm messing around with the paths. In production, it only runs at build time. So Yeah, that's important to know. But in production, you only need to run it at build time because they're static paths, right? Yeah. So okay, fallback, false from get static paths. Okay, if it's false, then we didn't get any paths, and that would result in an error. If fallback is true, then right. So if fallback is false, if the path isn't there, you get a 404, page not found. If it's true, let's see. In the background, Next will statically generate the requested path. Okay. Right. So it's beyond the scope of our lesson. Catch all routes can be extended to catch all paths by adding 3 dots inside the bracket. Like that. Matches post A, but also post A slash B, post A slash B slash C, which is nice again if you're dealing with 30,000 pages. You might not want them all in one directory. You might want them in multiple directories, but you still only want to write one configuration file for them. So that's what this gives you. I like that. If you do this, you must return an array as the value of the static key, which makes sense. You need to have your key now defined as your directories, your subdirectories, and then the name of the actual file. Okay, and params would also be an array. So that's pretty smart. If you want to access the router, you can do so by importing the use router hook. Okay, 404 pages, error pages. To create a custom 404 page, create pages 404.js. Okay, error pages documentation will cover that. And there are some more examples. WordPress example. Oh, there's all kinds of stuff in here. Dado CMS example. Yeah. So these are things that would be fun to play with. All right. So quick review. So I've had middling results on these little quizzes. Good thing they don't count for anything. You want to add blog post categories as the new dynamic root. Pages, categories, id.js. So our choices are to use static props to fetch a specific post given an ID, and get static paths to fetch all possible blog posts. Or the other way around. I'm thinking it, well, I think the paths will give us the post. So I think B. Nope. Like I said, I'm not going to worry about it. Good thing. Next has support for API routes, which lets you easily create an API endpoint as a Node.js serverless function. So we'll talk briefly about how to use this. Okay. If you're continuing from the previous lesson, you can skip this page. We'll do that. Creating API routes. So an API route is like in an API, you send commands to a server. You might be requesting a post, for example. So your command would be post, say. Depends on the route. So basically what happens in a router is it'll receive these commands and then direct them to the right script to handle the command. And that's the routing. So that's what's happening here. We'll get a request of some sort, and the routing inside the Next.js app will send it to the function that handles it. So we can create a function inside the Pages API directory that has the following format. So this is going to be a handler, right? So doesn't tell us what the name of the function would be. Probably could be anything, but basically we're exporting the function handler, and then in the other page somewhere, like maybe index.js, we'd have a similar line: import handler from this page or this file. So we can learn more about it in API routes documentation. Right, so yeah, okay. The API route user.js, so the command basically would be user, right? And it exports the function, including the data, stringifying the name. So, and here we can handle different requests. We can handle the request differently depending on how it's been submitted, and so on. Cores, cross-origin request scripting. Yeah, I've spent a bunch of time with that with Grasshopper just the last few days. Okay, so dynamic, and all of that's beyond the scope of what we're doing right now, so we'll come back here. They can be deployed as serverless functions, also known as lambdas. I don't know if that's generic or just for this. AWS lambdas, I think it's a generic term. Right. In computer programming, an anonymous function is a function definition not bound to an identifier. So usually functions have names, but in this case, no name. All right. So serverless functions. Let's try to create a simple API endpoint. Yeah, that's a good idea. So let's create a file called hello.js in pages/API. All right. So I'll copy this, go into here, pages. So we don't have an API directory, so we'll need to make one. Pages/API. And now we're in that directory, and we'll make our file called hello.js. So, new file, hello.js, and we'll put our content into it, which is a handler. Request Don't know what res will be. Maybe telling us. Oh, it's a an object in which to place our response. So here, res.status, right? Now we're so they've made the request and given us a place to put the response, and here we are putting the response into the status element of our response object. I do that all the time in Perl. I don't want to, like, you call a function. So here's your main script, here's your function. And in your main script, you've got a big data object. It's got titles, descriptions, properties, and all of that. And if I send that whole object to the subdirectory, now I've got 2 copies of that object, which is okay, except now the function has to send back and replace the original object, which creates some risk. But even more to the point, when you have 2 copies, you're using twice as much memory. It'll slow things down. So instead, I send a single value to my function, which is the location of this object. And so now my function has a location. It'll work directly with the object wherever it's sitting. So there's only ever 1 copy of the object in play, and I manipulate precisely what I need to in that. And that's what's happening here as well. So instead of passing down the entire object, we're just passing down essentially the name of the object. And now knowing the name of the object, or in Perl, the actual the identifier or the location of the object, we'll manipulate that directly. So that makes a lot of sense to me. I don't know if that made a lot of sense to you, but it makes a lot of sense to me. I hope it made a lot of sense to me. Alright, so try accessing it. Okay, well that's easy. And we got internal server error. I wonder why. Did I not save it? Maybe I didn't save it. Yeah, let's try saving it. That'll probably make it work better. Let's try that again. Reload. There we go. We got some raw JSON data. Text hello. JSON, or I guess as it's more properly pronounced, JSON. I've always called it JSON, but people call it JSON. We can see what it actually looks like. It looks like that. This is the label, or the field, and this is the value. So our field name is text, and the value of that field is hello. It's such a handy kind of structure for 2 reasons. First of all, it's really easy to read. But secondly, this is in JavaScript. I can put this into a JavaScript function. It's part of the function. So there's no conversion or anything like that. In XML, if I receive this in XML, the first thing I would have to do is parse my XML so that I take it from the structure that it's in when it's sent to me to the structure that my program can use in order to manipulate it. Here, it's a JavaScript object, so it goes straight into JavaScript. I don't have to mess around. And I could do something like, let's pretend this is code, document write text hello. Oops, spelled right. All right, something like that, and no, that wouldn't work, but it might work. I don't know. No, it wouldn't work. Document write text. No, it won't even run. Sorry, just playing. I don't even know if that works. Nope. Alright. So, whatever. I can still access it directly in JavaScript, although I have to figure out how to access it. I hate not knowing everything right off the top of my mind, but oh well. Coffee. Okay. Continuing. And that's an important lesson, right? This is me learning this stuff. This is not me knowing this stuff and explaining everything to you. So, if I offer an explanation of what's happening here is I'm giving you my best guess as to what's happening. Now, my guesses are pretty good, but they could be wrong, right? So we've got to be clear about that. There are no guarantees that my explanations, when I'm following instructions like this, are correct. Think they are, but no guarantees. Okay. Res is an instance of HTTP server response. Okay, so res is a name for this object. This is a type of object. It's a server response object, and we've called it res. Plus some helper functions. All right. So that's pretty cool, and I like that. And that's all they're going to show us, I think. Some essential information. Do not fetch an API route from get static props or get static paths. Instead, write your server-side code directly in these or call a helper function. Why? Because they only ever run on the server side. They'll never be run, won't even be included in the JavaScript bundle. Yeah, okay. Good use case, handling form input. It's a great use case. So you create a form. So here, for example, the form, enter your email address, and it gets the email address from the request body email, and then it saves it to the database. Preview mode. Okay. So Next has a feature called preview mode. Right, so it's sort of like a halfway point between dev mode and production mode. So it'll serve pages statically, but it'll render these kind of request pages at request time. Dynamic API routes. Okay. Oh, we're going to get this one right. Which of the following is a good use case for an API route? Saving income data to your database? Yep. Securely communicating with a third-party API? Or maybe not. Previewing draft content from your CMS? Or all of the above? I'm going to go with all of the above. And I'm right. My reasoning, I knew two of them were true, first and third. But I wasn't sure about the second, but I can either choose just one of them or all of them. And if I have 2 right answers, by deduction, it must be all of them. Okay, this is the final basics lesson. How are we doing? 12:19. How long will it take? Not long, he says, hopefully. All right. So we're going to deploy it to Vercel. Vercel is an online cloud hosting service. Used to be called Zeet. We've gone through this before. Now they're calling it a Jamstack deployment platform built by the creators of Next.js. So that's handy. Things should work because they're not trying to do anything fancy. And you'll need a GitHub account. All right. We have a GitHub account. We've covered that before. If you don't have a GitHub account, go to GitHub and create an account. The address is github.com. Here's my thingy. This is my account. So, okay. I also have the GitHub extension. I think it's an extension for it might be built in these days. I'm not sure. I've forgotten. VS Code, GitHub. Working with GitHub and Visual Studio Code. If you haven't covered this, it's worth covering. So, yeah, no, it looks like it's all basically already in VS Code, so you don't need to you don't need to install a plugin or anything. Although there are some plugins, so, but I don't think you need to. I think it's all there, but you will need to log into your repository. So this is the source control tab. These are all the changes that I've made. Lots of changes. Because I cloned this originally from Next.js, as I recall. That's that setup stage we keep skipping. Okay. So, create an account. Oh, and install the GitHub pull requests and issues extension. Extension to what? Install. Okay. Pull requests and issues. Let's install this. Visual Studio Code is required. Yes. Continue. Allow the site to open the VS Code link. Yes. Yeah, I already have it installed. Okay. So you would just install this at this point. I already have it installed, so I can close this window. All right. Good. Nice that they covered that, because, you know, if they just jumped into, okay, well, now you just do your pull request or whatever without actually telling us, all of a sudden you're lost. Okay. Where was I? Here, I guess. Right. Okay. What you'll learn, start now. Yeah, see, you can skip this page. Push to GitHub. Whoops. Didn't mean to do that. Push to GitHub. Okay, let's push our Next.js app to GitHub if you haven't already. On your personal GitHub, create a repository called Next.js-blog. Let's check and see if I've already done that. I'll look at my repositories. I have 23 now. And I does not look like I've created one like that. So this is new, right? Because I cloned it from somewhere else. Okay, so I'm going to create on GitHub. So let's go back to the start page for GitHub. This is the start page. So I'm going to create a repository as directed. It'll be called Next.js blog. I'm not worried if I've just missed it somehow, because it'll tell me if I've duplicated something. So repositories, click on that and find a repository. Let's see if I can. Nope. Okay. New repository name, description, Next.js course content. Sure, we'll make it public. I think you have to have an account to make it private. Initialize this repository with, and does it say anything about what I should do to set it up? You do not need to initialize it with README and other files. Okay, fine. So then I won't. I was thinking of it because it's generally good practice to do that, but it's just a training thing, right? So, all right. So we'll create the repository. All right. Quick setup. Right. So, okay, well, they should tell us here. Okay, then, if you haven't initialized the Git repository locally in your Next.js app, do so now. I have initialized it. What if I hadn't? I'm not sure. Let's pick some folder at random. Some other, well, maybe not that. Yeah, that's my images photo, and no, that's not a repository. So suppose I wanted that to be a repository. No GitHub repositories found, right? That's what it would look like. Then I'd click on this, click on initialize repository, and then click on publish to GitHub. Right, so the initialize repository would set it up locally, and then publish to GitHub would send it to my account in GitHub. All right, but I know I have one already initialized in my folder here. So we'll go back to code projects. Notice I don't save code projects in OneDrive because I don't want to save all of this stuff. Like, you know, if I install Node or Node modules, I'm saving a whole bunch of stuff to my OneDrive online storage that was created by other people. I don't want to do that. So I just keep this separately, and I'll store the important stuff on GitHub. That's better. Okay. So Next.js, back into our folder. Here we are. Okay. And here's our GitHub with all the changes. So I'm pretty sure I know how this is going to work, but see, I don't think I can just upload it because it came from someone else's thing. And I'd be trying to upload it to theirs, right? But I can't upload it to theirs, it's theirs. And if I wanted, I'd submit what's called a pull request. So I want to push it to them, and then they have to agree to pull it. But what I'd be uploading is the same as what they've already written, so why would I do that? So I want it to go into my own GitHub repository, the one I've just created, in fact. All right. Back to the instructions. So, if you haven't initialized it, do that. Then push the Next.js app to your GitHub repository. So you can run the command with your GitHub username. So what I'm doing here basically is I'm defining the origin of this repository now to be this location on GitHub. And then I'm going to push all of my content to, this used to be the master branch, and now it's the main branch of the origin. So I could possibly do it in this application itself, but I'm going to use the terminal, and I think it'll work in the terminal. So that should work, except I have to put my username in here, which I think is just downs in GitHub, isn't it? Yep, with a capital D. Okay. So I'll just change that. D-O-W-N-E-S. Okay. Let's hit that. Fatal. Not a Git repository or any of the parent directories. But it is. I just created it, didn't I? Maybe I didn't. No, here it is. Oh, I haven't finished it yet. Maybe. Here's the same command. Origin git at GitHub. So it's a bit different from what they're doing. It's a bit different from the command they gave me. Add origin git at github.com instead of the URL. That shouldn't make a difference. Let's try it. Same error. Not a Git repository. So I must not have created that yet. But I'm pretty sure I did. Well, that's a puzzle. Set up in desktop. Quick setup if you've done this kind of thing before. Well, not quite like this. I clicked that button. That didn't do anything. Okay. Oh, okay, so that's the SSH command. This is the HTTPS command. Either way, should work. Let's see, maybe there's a thing on the side here. Remote. Add remote. the URL. Let's try that. Please provide a remote name. Not a valid remote name. I'm going to assume somehow all of that worked. And try pushing it. So I can stage this, although I've set this up so that if I commit, it automatically stages everything. It's an option that it'll offer you if you try to do that. So, and I'll commit, startup, Next.js. It's just a message, it's not a command, so it's just telling people what I was doing. Hit enter, there's my message. So now it's staged, and the next thing to do is push. And my repository has no remotes configured to push to. Okay, add remote. Good enough. Provide repository URL. There it is. Provide a remote name. I don't know what they're asking for. Provide a remote name. Okay. Set origin. Oh, okay. Set origin for the remote name. All right, let's try that. Remote name origin. I liked that. And now push. The branch name has no upstream branch. Would you like to publish this branch? Yes. There's no upstream branch. It means it's the top branch. Used to be called master. Now it's called main. It's still the same thing. Except without the connotations that we could do without. Alright. If all has worked, it should be now. There it is. Look at that. So that was all a bit mysterious, and I don't know why it was rejecting it originally. So the precise instructions here didn't work, even though I put my username in there properly. I was getting an error message on that saying you can't because it hasn't been created yet. But okay. But eventually it did work because I was able to work my way through using the integration here in the Visual Studio Code app. Good thing that worked, because I don't know what I would have done otherwise. Alright, so we've done that. Continue to the next page. Deploy to Vercel. So now we're going to send it to the cloud platform. Vercel is an all-in-one platform with a global content development or content distribution network supporting static and Jamstack deployment. It's blah, blah, blah. We believe Vercel is the optimal place to deploy Next.js apps because they wrote Next.js. Okay, creating a Vercel Vercel account. I already have a Vercel account, but I'll log into it. So I'll just take vercel.com and we'll go there. Vercel.com. See, I'm already logged in. There's the thing I did before. So it's a free account. I'm not sure how long they'll let me keep doing it for free, but I'll keep doing it for free while I can. Alright. So need to install okay. Once you've signed up, import your Next.js blog repository. Okay. Can do so from here. Import Git repository. Now it says you'll need to install Vercel for GitHub. I've already done that on a previous project. Wasn't hard. So now we'll import the Git repository. So downs, and now we'll find our repository, which was called, great memory, but it's short, Next.js blog. So search Next. Yeah, there we go. Import personal account. Okay, so we're importing this project, framework preset, Next.js, root directory, sure, build imp. Okay, so let's see if it says anything about that. You can use default values for the following settings. All right. And your Next.js app will start building. So, okay. Oops. Here we go. No, that's not it. Here we go. All right. So, just going to use the default, whatever they are, npm run build or next build. Okay, and there are no environment variables. If I was using a database, the password for the database would be an environment variable, and I'd put it in here. And the reason why I would put it in here would be so that I don't have to put the password for the database into my production code, which I've just shared on GitHub with the world. So I'd put it in here. But we're not using a database for this example, so it doesn't matter. Deploy. It'll take a few seconds for this thing to go. When it's done, you'll get deployment URLs. Click on one of the URLs and you should see your Next.js starter page live. So, be a few seconds more. And I think that finishes our whole thing, right? Okay, so a little bit about Vercel, a little bit about previewing development. Yeah, okay, so create a new branch, make some changes, push to GitHub, create a pull request, and then that should automatically update on Vercel. And next can be deployed on any hosting provider that supports Node.js. So some information about your scripts. Okay. npm run build, npm run start. Right, remember we ran npm run dev, but if you're doing it production, you'd use these, build and then start. And finally, congratulations on finishing all the basics lessons. There's more we can learn next, but we're not going to do that in this video because we're a little over an hour. We'll just test this. Oh, man. Failed to compile. Well, isn't that interesting? Module not found. Can't resolve gray matter. I noticed I couldn't find it before either, right? Huh. So I wasn't just imagining things at the start here. It did seem odd. Well, okay. Let's go back to here. Let's try npm install. Is it gray or gray? Let's check. And why would gray matter disappear from one week to the next on my system? Haven't a clue. Gray matter. Okay. Gray matter is not in the npm repository. All right. Let's find out where they installed it in our instructions. We will be using gray matter to parse our front matter. npm install save dev gray matter. That should work. There we go. All right. No, same thing again. No such file or directory. Well, that's totally a mystery to me. Why would it be not there? So this is the sort of thing that just, and it's weird because it's all working on my site, but it's simply not available there. And I can't install it again here. I want to, let's try getting it right from the exact site. So where are my instructions again? They're gone. Okay. Site Next.js. Gray matter. Did I misspell it? Might have misspelled it. Oh, gray. Oh, yeah, silly. Okay. No such. Oh, well. Okay, I'm not really in the right directory for this. Okay, so let's cd into. All right, now let's try installing it. You have to be in the right directory to install it. Okay, let's install gray matter. Okay, it likes that better, maybe. Skipping optional dependency. Okay. Right. And my package JSON file is updated. So I have some changes to add. So that's my commit message. So we'll commit. And now right click and push. So now I've pushed these changes to GitHub. That should be reflected here. I'll reload this page. Installing gray matter. Now, if this all works the way I think it should work, all of that should have loaded automatically in here. So let's try deploying it and we'll see what happens. That's a good sign. That's the note that I just typed, right? So I don't know why gray matter disappeared. Okay. Deployment started just now. Okay, here's our Lambda function. Yeah, clearly we got through the error that we had. Congratulations, your project has been successfully deployed. Let's visit it. Here's my project running in the cloud, working in the cloud, and I can mess around and do other stuff with it. So, a little glitch at the end, but otherwise things went pretty much according to script. A little glitch with the upload to GitHub. Not sure why that didn't work. Still not sure, but I was able to work my way through it using the built-in function. It might have been, I wonder, it might have been because I was in the wrong directory in the terminal. You need to be in the right directory. Yeah, I bet you that was it, actually. If you're ever not sure what directory you're in, pwd is the directory. And I was actually, I think I was up here. And yeah, I was here in Next.js code projects, and that's a higher level directory, but my actual project was in Next.js. So I needed to go into Next.js. Oops. And then run my stuff. And I'll bet you my GitHub commands would have worked there, because the GitHub information, the repository information, is stored in a hidden file in this directory. See, there's the git ignore, and there should be more stuff in this directory about the repository. So, and also about Next, right? So let's see, here's the information that Next does for itself. Look at that. Components. Oh, that's stuff that we did. But in this .next directory, there's a bunch of stuff, right? The server itself, some static content, the build manifest, right? All of that stuff's automatically generated. You need to be in the right directory to be working with this stuff. So I think that was probably it. So, okay, so that completes my series. Learning Next.js, 3 parts, all 3 of which managed to be more than an hour, or 1 of which managed to be more than 2 hours. But I hope you enjoyed that. I certainly did. Still pretty impressed with this framework, and in some of the future installments of Stephen Follow's instructions, I might do more work with Next.js. Although I think probably I'll try a different project for next time. I don't know, maybe something related to AI, maybe another framework. I don't know. Depends on what I run across. Or if you have any suggestions on things that I can follow for instructions, do let me know, because I'd be happy to follow instructions and see whether what you've created is something that I can actually do myself. So I'm Stephen Downs. Thanks a lot for following.